How's it going, Renegades? Today we're going to take a look at Chloe. She is a pre-elite rower, and last time we looked at her deadlift. This time we're going to take a look at her back squat. So she just does a few reps for us here. We'll watch again. And a couple of things that she does nicely is she's got good balance, so she's not really falling forwards or backwards too much. Her foot's pretty balanced. Her heels stay connected to the floor. And her bar path is relatively straight up and down, which is awesome. We're always focused on trying to keep that bar traveling straight down and straight up. What I'm going to ask her to work on is just her setup, where her feet are, and then how she holds her brace through the squat. So if we look at her feet, right now they're probably they're just wider than her hips, I would guess. And you notice she's not getting full depth. So if we pause it, and we bring it all the way to the bottom, so right there. It's not the best angle, but we can tell based on the angle of her knee that her hips, all right, are higher than the top of her knee. So I need her hip crease to be below the top of her knee. So what I'm going to ask her to do is to actually take probably a half step wider on each side, which should allow her to get that full depth and get her hip crease below the top of her knee. Now, as she does that, she's going to have to continue to focus on her balance and her bar path and keeping her heels connected, but I also want her to focus on her brace. So if you watch one more time, let's go slow motion, quarter speed, take a look what happens as she initiates the squat and she sends her hips back. Her midline pops open just a bit, and her rib cage sort of flares out ever so slightly. And you can tell by the crinkle in her tank top. So if we pause it and we bring it back to the start of her second rep, notice she has a good brace here at the top. She just squeezed her butt because she finished the first rep. Her butt's squeezed, her belly's tight, she's standing tall. All of her joints are stacked straight up and down, which is awesome. That's a great setup. Now, as she initiates that movement, her hips are going to go back, but we want to make sure that her rib cage stays locked down. And if I actually put a circle right around this line in her tank top, watch what happens as she starts this movement. A kink occurs right there, right about her rib cage, as she initiates. And it has to do with she's looking up at whatever's in front of her. Maybe it's a mirror, maybe it's something else. She's really trying to focus on keeping her chest big and her chest up, which is awesome. That's cues that we always use and we want to think about. But we can never lose the brace that we get every time we start from a standing position, right? That standing position is a perfect opportunity to lock in our midline and get our brace by squeezing our butts, locking our rib cage down to our pelvis, getting our belly firm, keeping our shoulders down, and then that midline stays solid all the way through any movement, whether it's squatting or rowing. We don't want to see any major movement through the spine or through those vertebrae, either in hyperextension or in flexion through any movement, especially when squatting or deadlifting. So those are the couple things that I'm going to have her work on. I'll put together a video of myself in a little bit here. But let's watch full speed again. So things we like: good bar path, good balance on her feet, keeping her heels connected. But we need her feet to be wider so she can get probably about 2 inches deeper and push those knees out a little bit more. And we also need to keep that brace nice and solid so there's no hyperextension of her back through the movement. One last thing that might help her with that in both her squat and her deadlift are keeping a neutral neck. So rather than looking straight out ahead at the horizon, if she picks a spot on the floor 4 feet in front of her, maybe the end of the platform, and keeps her eye there so her neck's a little bit more neutral and she's not hyperextending that neck or that back as she descends. And you might see that as well if you go back and watch the deadlift, that hyperextension of the neck, which is doesn't help. And if we can keep it neutral, we can actually keep a better brace and keep that midline tighter by keeping that neck neutral. So that's what we want to change, and that's what we want to feel. All right, guys. Look forward to seeing you guys improve your back squats. Have a great day.